Okay, hi and welcome to
All About Pond.
Oh, they can't understand you like that, silly.
All About Ponds.
Pond life. All right, we're gonna talk about what
Froggies.
Frogs.
Patty. Dragonflies. And other pond life, pond ecosystem, and at-home activity.
And resources. Yep. All right, let's start with frogs. All right, so we're going to talk specifically about the Pacific tree frog because this is the frog that's currently in our pond, and this is the Pacific tree frog right here.
And they usually come in brown and green. We usually only see the brown, but there's sometimes we see the green.
Yeah, sometimes they're very pretty. They're a very pretty green color. So we're going to talk about the life cycle and the role in the ecosystem and give you some videos to check out. So this is the Pacific tree frog. They're relatively small, and this one's green, but like Logan said, sometimes they're brown. All right. So,
I'm Logan.
This is Logan. All right, so let's talk about the life cycle. What do we start with?
Eggies.
And go to?
Tadpoles.
Tadpoles.
Tadpole with legs. And frogs with tails. And then baby frog, and then grown-up frog.
Right, we just don't have a picture of frogs with a tiny little tail and the front legs because we couldn't get a picture. We saw one the other day, but we couldn't get a picture. It was too fast. And the adult frog. So let's take a closer look at the eggs.
Yes, and those are what they look like when they are first born. Then let's go to the next page.
Okay, so yeah, but don't forget, these little eggs, they don't look like much. They're just these little black circles. They're in this like gelatin substance, and they're attached to what? What are they always attached to? Plants. And then they start to look.
Their black fades away, and you can see the tadpoles inside. I've been seeing a lot of them.
Yeah, they start to look like tadpoles inside of the gel that they are in. And then they turn into
tadpoles.
And they hatch out of the gel and they swim around.
Yes.
And then they get bigger and bigger.
And they get bigger and bigger and start to pop legs. And then they get the frogs with the cute little tails. Mm-hmm. And then they turn to a baby frog. No. Okay. And then they turn into a grown-up frog. Ba, 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 ba.
Exactly. All right. So frogs and tadpoles in the ecosystem. Tadpoles eat algae and other plants, so they're good to keep the algae down.
Back swimmers eat tadpoles.
Yes, back swimmers eat tadpoles. They are food for other animals, for fish, water bugs, which is a back swimmer that we'll talk about, birds, and some other pond visitors. The adult frogs eat insects, which is kind of why we like them. We don't like the mosquitoes hanging around, so the frogs will eat those. And frogs are food for fish, birds, snakes, and other animals. And due to climate change, primarily drought in California, the Pacific tree frog is losing its habitat, but also pollution and medications, actually, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So let's take a look at some videos. The first one is of a frog croaking. So you'll see this in the video in just a second.
Oh, there's the frog right there. He is ribbiting. Once you hear a ribbit close by, it's him. See, its stomach is going up.
Its throat. It's got this throat bubble that it extends.
Okay. Here it
amplifies the sound.
Here it comes. 1, 2, 3. That's. See, it's ribbit. It's really close. It's really close, so you'll hear it. And there it is. Circle it, mommy.
All right. And this is a frog swimming. We just like the way they swim.
And there's a baby frog. It's a baby.
It is. It's a baby frog swimming.
And there it goes.
All right. Next, let's talk about dragonflies. And these are the dragonflies that have been hanging out. They're red. This is probably a male because it's a little bit smaller and more colorful than the females. And here's the life cycle. Really only 3 stages. We start with, what are these? Eggs. We go to the nymph stage. This is actually just a skin of the nymph. This is not the actual nymph. They actually emerge just like a butterfly from a chrysalis out of this skin into the adult dragonfly.
And those are eggs very close close up. I can't believe they look like that. I thought they looked like tadpole legs.
You thought they looked like tadpole legs? Yeah, we haven't seen them in our pool because they're so tiny we can't find them. But here's the nymph skin, and it popped out of here. The adult popped out just like a butterfly.
Look at those eye bubbles.
Yeah, that is where the eyes were. Cool, huh?
Yeah.
And just like a butterfly, they'll come out and they'll have to let their wings dry before they can fly. So here's just a side view of the nymph, so you can see its long, long body. And the adult.
The adult is always red. And here is a video of a dragonfly laying eggs.
Yeah, we caught a video of the mama dragonfly laying eggs.
There she is, circling, like with her butt, flicking them into the water, like flicking them, flicking them, flicking them.
Yep. All right. So dragonflies, what do? Why are they important? Well, they eat mosquitoes. They're another one of our mosquito eaters.
And then they
help keep pest populations under control. They're also a great indicator of water health because they're very susceptible to unhealthy water. So increased pollution is threatening their numbers, so it's a good idea to keep a watch out for them, and if you've got dragonflies nearby, that means you've got healthy water nearby. Okay, let's talk about the other life. We're going to talk about some things maybe you haven't even seen or heard or thought of, which is plants, biofilm, which we'll talk about, insects, and other animals.
Yes, and down here, we're starting with plants.
Plants. Oh, I don't know, because I forgot. So, plants help filter the water and remove harmful bacteria from the water.
Yes,
And they're a food source for many organisms, such as fish, tadpoles, insect larvae, insects, etc. They're also, like we showed you with the tadpoles, they're a great site for laying eggs. The frogs love to lay eggs on plants, and they serve as protection for small prey, such as small fish, tadpoles, and frogs. They like to hide in there so they don't get eaten, right?
Yeah.
All right, biofilm. There's this thing called biofilm, or bacterial mats, that form on the surfaces of rocks and dirt in ponds and other bodies of water, which makes the rocks slippery. So it's not always algae that makes it slippery, it's the whole bacterial mat. So we originally thought it was bad for water quality and it was harmful to health. But now we know that certain biofilms in fact clean the water and make the water clearer and healthier. So they're actually good for the ecosystem. So these bacteria feed on dead plant and animal material, and they essentially filter the water because of that. So that's a little bit of the microbiome of a pond. And then we got other insects. We've got water striders. We've got damselflies, which are a lot like dragonflies. We've got back swimmers. Mayfly larvae.
Did you find that
and so much more.
Mom, did you find that on...
Yes.
On
So this is a water strider. It's these big water bugs with these long, long legs, and they just are so fast, right? Across the water, they're hard to get a picture of.
Yeah, they're really hard. But I can't believe my mom took a picture of them. This is my mom.
So, what do they eat? Do you remember?
Insects.
They eat insects that are in the water, but also insects that just fall into the water.
Yeah,
right?
like flies.
Yeah, like flies. All right, this is a damselfly, a lot like a dragonfly, but smaller. And they're similar to dragonflies. They eat insects
But they
as
have blue on them. I can't believe it. They have blue on them.
They're pretty, huh? This is a blurry picture because I had to zoom in because they're awfully tiny. This is mayfly larvae. There are these type of like white flies that only live for 24 hours, but their larvae can live a long time in the water. And this is their larva, and they have a 3-forked tail right here. They're kind of creepy looking, almost look a little like scorpions, but they're fine. They're food for some of the other insects in there, like the water strider and our next insect, which is a back swimmer. Back swimmers eat tadpoles, as we found out, small fish, other insects, and larvae. And they swim on their backs like this, like a little water boatman rowing a boat. And what they do is they go underneath their prey and they float up and then grab them with their mouth. And they eat them. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it's really cool.
All right. And animals. Of course, we've got animals and other insects. So, newts and salamanders also live in water and lay their eggs. I know.
That right there is tadpoles.
It's not tadpoles.
In the eggs.
It's newts or salamander eggs. We're not sure which. But birds and bees also visit the water, and any animals that require a source of water, which is what? All of them. I know. Okay, so this is newt or salamander eggs. We don't know which, but they look like tadpoles, and they're very similar to tadpoles, but they're yellow, so we knew they were not tadpoles, right?
But because those are tadpoles.
Right, next to them right here are tadpoles. So these are either newts or salamanders. We are not sure. But other visitors, as you can see,
that is a hummingbird.
Hummingbird came to visit and drink from our pond.
Our pond waterfall.
Yep. And in this one, we had a little birdie visit to take a bath.
Yes, a little birdie. She's like wiggling in the water, taking a bath. Zoom in and like, ooh.
They're so cute when they take a bath, huh?
Ooh.
We've seen all sorts of birds visit, including mourning doves and blue jays and finches.
And here is a video of bees drinking.
Yep, bees coming to drink.
In this.
Okay.
And we also save them from in the water, like, sometimes the waterfall goes fast and their watering holes, their watering holes are gone. And then they land into the deep part of our pond or into the shallow part. And then we have to save them since they don't like water.
Yeah, they can't live in water, huh? They just like to drink it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the pond ecosystem in general. So everything in a pond ecosystem, just like an ecosystem anywhere else.
That is our pond, picture right there.
Is connected. So biodiversity matters. You need all of the players from the bacteria all the way to the animals to make the ecosystem work. So the more variety of life you have, the healthier it is. The health of the ecosystem is dependent on all of the individual parts. If you have one of those parts go bye-bye, then you might have an overpopulation of something. So for example, if there's no dragonflies to eat the mosquitoes, you might have a mosquito problem. So all parts are important for the whole. And pond ecosystems in California specifically are suffering due to climate change because of drought conditions. Most ponds are drying up, and the animals
ponds are dried up.
Yeah, and so they don't have a place to live or drink. Also, human impact. We are decimating. We're decimating their habitat.
We're decimating their habitat.
Yeah, we're getting their habitat's disappearing. Chemical use is a big one. Any fertilizers, any pesticides, herbicides, you name it, any chemical whatsoever, even if you spray it on dry land, eventually seeps into the soil, into the rainwater, and the runoff that goes into waterways that affect all of the life in those ponds. And then medications, people don't think much about it, but medications...
We should not spray any chemicals around, even on our ground, even like on the other side of our house. It can float all the way under our house and back onto the other side where your pond is. So we have to make sure we don't spray any chemicals anywhere.
That's right. So that's something that we'll talk about what you can do. But medications is also a big one. People don't realize that flushing medications down the toilet ends up in waterways and can affect populations, specifically of frogs. Also, you get rid of excess medications in your urine, which then goes into the water systems and into the groundwater and can affect frogs. If you're interested, atrazine, which is a pesticide used in the California Central Valley, has been getting into waterways and turning specific native California frogs that are genetically male into females, and they start laying eggs, and it's messing up the whole balance of the ecosystem there. So I kind of wonder myself, well, if it's doing that to frogs, what is it doing to us if we're drinking that water, if there's trace amounts of that chemical in our waterway? But that's just something to think about, or if you're interested in researching about. So this is our little pond that we've taken all of the pictures and videos at.
And that pond picture, you might not have noticed, but that pond picture, we didn't only just it didn't only just end up there. We made it, handmade it.
Yes, we did.
Handmade it.
Yeah, we created this little ecosystem. All right, so what can you do to help pond ecosystems? The first and foremost is do not use any chemicals, like Logan just said, including pest control, because runoff leads to those water sources like we talked about. Do not flush medications down the toilet. And in drought areas, such as here in California, provide a source of water, and a bird bath is the simplest, best way to provide that source of water, and it's good to just watch the wildlife in it. It's really cool to watch the insects, to watch the birds bathing, to watch other things come and drink from it. It's wonderful to watch. So that concludes our class, but we want to give you an at-home activity. So our challenge to you this week is to go find a local pond, stream, lake, doesn't matter, any source of water, and go pond dipping, which means bring along possibly a net, a magnifying glass, or any other observational tools you may want, and see what you can observe in the pond. See if you can find any of the organisms we talked about today, any of the living things that we talked about. And I want you to draw, write, or take pictures of your observations in your nature journal.
And then, if you have a camera that takes the pictures and they come out, that's great, because then you can tape that picture into your nature journal and always have a picture of it.
Yeah. All right, and here are some resources. You can visit my website, regenlives.com, for the handout that goes with this lesson. Here's some children's books that are really great. Some are more scientific, some are stories, but Pond Water Zoo is an introduction to microscopic life in pond and water systems. Over and Under the Pond is a great one, and Just Pond. There's also a cool video on YouTube about pond life, and I mentioned this in the insect, you can go back to my insect class, but the dragonfly monitoring is a huge thing. You can do some citizen science and get to know your dragonflies and help them figure out dragonfly migration, which we don't know much about. So you can go to visit that website. Alrighty, thank you so much for joining us.
And we love you so much. Bye-bye.
See you next time.
See you next week.